Drivers, start your engines. And you are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., welcoming you to another lap for today. So, sorry about that. But you are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., welcoming you to take another lap of the extra mile for today, June the 10th, 2021. And folks, 1 week ago, I said a certain F1 team could not have a race like their Monaco Grand Prix. And they ended up doing it the very next week. And to help me talk about that, of course, are my co-hosts, Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward.
What's going on, everybody?
How's everybody doing tonight?
Much better than Mercedes and Christian Horner, I'll say that much.
Nah, it's more better than that table under Christian Horner. And Toto Wolff, that table, the infamous table that's being abused.
The only good thing about something like this past weekend is the memes are unbeatable. So, Pirelli's probably turned their mentions off this week. And their phone.
Yeah, Pirelli's like new phone,
Horner,
who this?
Horner is one guy who I would be scared to see in a ring. I think Horner is the one guy in F1 that I would be scared to fight.
Maybe. I mean, he had a right to be pissed. And we're going to get to everything that happened in the closing moments of that Azerbaijan Grand Prix here presently. But I think he has every right to be pissed with what happened there, because they said the medium tires can last 40 laps, and 32 laps in, Verstappen's tire just goes with absolutely no warning.
And on a straight, no less.
Yeah, I had a heart attack, as you guys know. I was blowing up the group text.
Yeah, you were. And not just any straight, by the way. The fastest straight on the racetrack. Doing well over 200 miles per hour at that point. And there was a picture that Michael reminded us of that got posted on social media. There's a wall that is slanted with what looks like safer barrier to the right side. If Verstappen hits that wall, he would have been going into it head on. And even with the safety shell, even with, that being a softer wall, I don't see him coming out of that accident without serious injury or worse. That was a dangerous situation. And not to mention that, they don't throw the caution for about 20 seconds. And I think it was Lando Norris that came through the debris field at full speed at that point.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I think that brings up a real safety issue going forward. I mean, we always criticize NASCAR for throwing the flags almost instantaneously. But, at least with NASCAR, everyone on the track knows, okay, hey, there's a yellow, there's a caution out, slow down, be on the lookout. But you're talking about this Sunday, you got 2-3 cars that drive through that at full speed, and they got no idea until they're already too late. If, something rebounded off the wall, you're talking about, multiple cars in that.
It's an issue that we've talked about with Formula One a lot recently, and I will remind everyone, Jules Bianchi died in 2014. That's not that long ago, and we still have these issues with cautions coming far too late. Heck, we almost lost Roman Grosjean last year. That wasn't that long ago. In fact, the photographer that took the picture of him jumping out of the fire just got a photography award, which, congratulations to that guy. He deserved it because that photo was breathtaking. But back to the serious point, Formula One in safety, they've got to do better. NASCAR has to do better as well with their response times, but Formula One has to do better in this situation. These cars are going far too fast for you to be waiting to throw the caution when you've got a car stricken just off the racing line. I mean, he's basically where you would start to merge over to go into turn number 1 or to start getting ready for the braking zone. And if somebody isn't paying attention, like they're down looking at their wheel, changing controls, they could look up and T-bone Max Verstappen, and God only knows what happens there.
Yeah,
not a pretty sight. That's what'll happen.
No, it's a completely different accident at that point, and it's one that I don't see it ending very well for Verstappen at that point.
No, definitely not. And we will hopefully not have these issues going forward, especially with the tires. And Pirelli has been getting rightfully beat up in the F1 press for this. And Pirelli and the tires have been a talking point for a couple of years. Sometimes they're too hard. Sometimes they're way too soft. Here, they're saying that debris caused the issue. But according to Christian Horner, when it comes to Verstappen's tire, and Lance Stroll as well as their team, there was no warning for when these tires exploded. They're just going down the straightaway and then boom, they're in the wall. Tires should not do that, especially in Formula One, especially when they have a length of 40 laps and they're dying 8 laps before the prescribed distance.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, it's not like these guys were really beating the crap out of these tires more so than they would at any other track or, any other situation, really. I mean, this was normal wear and tear that you'd expect for a race. And to just have them fail, whether it's a speed thing, they just kind of fell apart with the speed or what. Pirelli's got some serious questions to answer about this. And I don't think that Formula One should pull a Ferrari and just say, we took care of it. We're not going to tell anybody about it. But, I think that Pirelli should be publicly answering.
This almost reminds me, I'm sorry, Daryl, but this almost reminds me of, how bad Ferrari was in 2011, Daryl?
Yeah. Those 2011 tires were awful.
And it's almost kind of reminding me of like that exact scenario.
I mean, it's that scenario in one race, thankfully, and not an entire season.
Yeah, because it was just like every race back then was really bad. But it's I don't know.
Didn't they have like 4-stop races at some tracks that year because the tire wear was so bad?
Sometimes it was 4 or 5.
And people want that tire wear back. I am good on that, by the way.
Nah,
Do not want to see 5 pit stops in an F1 race, given how short they are. That's not good for your tire life.
Yeah, I think I think I was glad when they changed that because it was terrible.
So we'll move on from tires. Fellas, when we were all together a couple of weeks ago, what did I say Mercedes could not do after the Monaco Grand Prix?
I believe that was mess up again.
Oh, I'm wrong.
I kind of want to hear what Chris had to say before I continue.
I said it doesn't seem like Mercedes can win a race.
Yeah. Michael's actually right on it. They could not have another mistake. The very next race, they blew it. They straight up blew the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The race is sitting right there in Lewis Hamilton's hands. All he has to do off the red flag restart is beat Perez to turn number 1, and he's going to win this race.
Yeah,
and what does he do?
Sorry, but he can just practice a little restraint. Practice a little restraint. Your biggest competition is out. You're down points. Take second place. Grab those points and take the lead back. You know, I don't think Hamilton needed to go for the win. But obviously it was you can continue on. But
guys, let's be honest. He wanted to recreate Fast and the Furious.
To explain to everyone what happened, instead of Lewis Hamilton taking the lead into turn 1 and winning the race, he goes yeeting off into the escape road and ends up finishing 16th and out of the points. What that did for the championship was significant because not only does the Drivers' Championship stand pat, because remember Verstappen didn't score either, it's now a 26-point lead for Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. I said it 2 weeks ago, and I said it at Bahrain as well. They cannot afford to have bedwetter races. They've had 2 in a row. We're going to talk a lot about panic buttons when we get to NASCAR in a minute. I think if you're Mercedes, you are slamming the panic button because you are in trouble. That was an unforced error that they could not have on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. And whoever took the stat line that both Haas cars would beat Lewis Hamilton probably has more money than Jeff Bezos right now. Because Mercedes better never forget the day that Lewis Hamilton finished behind both Haas cars.
If you took Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher finishing ahead of Lewis Hamilton, I don't even want to know what the plus was on that bet. You're probably extremely hard to find right now because that's a lot of money you just got.
Yeah, that's better than winning the Mega Millions right there.
Yeah.
That's the Mega Billions.
Yep.
Now you can start your own Formula One team with that much money.
Basically, you could probably buy Haas F1 off of Haas the way it's going.
Yeah. And fire one of their drivers.
Yeah. Expeditiously.
I actually saw, not to segue into other series, but I saw an article today that Alex Bowman had 35-1 odds to win the championship. And obviously now it's looking pretty good in terms of that. So this guy could stand to win like almost $200,000 off his bet.
I hope that hits. I really hope that hits.
Especially this year with Hendrick. If I saw a Hendrick car at 35-1, no matter who it was, I'm taking those.
Definitely. And just to we'll extend a little bit for F1 before we go to break. But looking forward, we're going to France, then 2 in Austria, Great Britain, and Hungary. These are good tracks for Mercedes, and you're putting Lewis Hamilton in front of the British fans. So he's basically going to go Super Saiyan Blue when we get to that race for all those that watch anime. But I'm not sure. I'm not confident Mercedes can pull off the string of wins that I'm used to them seeing because they have shot themselves in the foot uncharacteristically 2 times now. I do not know what happened to their pace in Monaco. And Azerbaijan, Lewis Hamilton has a Russia you-know-what to the brain and hits the magic button and cooks the front brakes. It feels like this championship battle, at first it was getting to Red Bull's heads. That Monaco Grand Prix victory may be getting into Mercedes' heads now as we're sitting here.
Yeah, and I think that this definitely put Red Bull pretty significantly ahead of Mercedes, especially when you consider that Bottas is more or less checked out for the season. So this is kind of, I hate to say it, but this is almost Hamilton's deficit to overcome almost by himself, unless, they come to some sort of agreement with Bottas where he actually starts trying again. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big obstacle to overcome, especially with Red Bull. You know, they're definitely, the momentum swung in their favor, and you know, aside from that tire going out, you're looking at a 1-2 finish, and you know, it's definitely, the pendulum has swung, and I think that it's Red Bull to lose at this point.
So before we go to break, does Bottas stay in that seat when we get to Belgium? Because that's going to be right after the summer break. If we're going to see a driver transfer, it'll probably happen then. Does he stay in that car?
So I saw a video of that restart, and it definitely looked like Bottas lifts and let at least one or two cars go by. And if that is true, which it just looked like it, but if that is true, I bet you he's in. I think that there's a mid-season swap.
Michael, what do you think?
I think it's gonna happen. If he continues to perform the way he does, then it's probably gonna happen. I mean, he's kind of just, it's like he's not even trying sometimes, and it's just like, well, if I was in his shoes, it would just be like, well, it's time for Russell to step it up.
If Bottas doesn't score points over the next couple weeks, I think they have to look at other avenues, because Hamilton can't carry this team by himself with Perez and Verstappen performing the way that they are. Every race is just going to, you know, be a net gain for Red Bull. So if Bottas
can I say something?
Yeah,
real quick. You know, the fact that Perez is doing so well in the second Red Bull really makes me wonder, maybe it's a Red Bull development problem.
It could be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should spend, even if they do well, maybe they should spend more time in Super Scuderia AlphaTauri, because it's just, Perez is just, then again, Perez is a really seasoned driver. So
yeah, I couldn't be happier for Perez right now. I mean, I'm so happy that he won. You know, congratulations to him, and it's nice seeing that second Red Bull car, you know, take the podium.
It's nice to see the Red Bull car, actually the second car, finishing up there with the first car, and that's going to make it a lot harder for Mercedes to get this championship, because as we said, Bottas looks like a guy with both feet out the door, and he's just waiting for the push. But
it seems like he's trying to force the push.
Yeah, it feels like he's trying to get pushed out the door to somewhere else. But folks, Bottas may be looking at a second chance, but if you're looking for a second chance in your sports career, maybe you should give semi-pro sports a try. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just trying to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. Something Valtteri Bottas may have lost in racing F1 right now. The SoCal Warriors have been on their quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you may get the second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. For more information, check out their Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, and Facebook, Southern California Warriors. Thank you to them for sponsoring IE Sports Radio, and I wonder if Valtteri Bottas can play football, because he may need this to rehabilitate after the season he's having. Just saying.
Just go rally racing.
He needs something.
Well, with that segue out of the way, we're going to take a break. The panic button discussion will continue as we talk about NASCAR next. And Stewart-Haas Racing, they in trouble. Talk about that on the rest of this break, on the other side of this break, here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus, Lowest rate. Here to give you what you want. Here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Christopher, and Michael with you on this evening. Good to have you back, Christopher. And let's get into NASCAR. We were talking about panic buttons in Formula One, and one big red panic button in North Carolina has probably been hit a long time ago. That's Stewart-Haas Racing, and we're going to talk about them first. Kevin Harvick is currently 9th in the points after the racing at Sonoma with the Toyota Save Mark 350. Harvick did not have a very good race. He finished 22nd, but you may have thought that his teammates may have picked up the slack. You would be wrong. Chase Briscoe finished 17th on the day, the highest finishing of the Stewart-Haas cars. His two other teammates, Cole Custer and Eric Almirola, let's find out. Custer on Sunday finished 20th after starting 23rd, and Eric Almirola started 26th, finished 27th. He actually went backwards from his starting position. Outside of Kevin Harvick, the SHR cars are currently sitting 26th, 27th, and 28th in the championship standings. To put that in perspective, in front of them in the championship is Ross Chastain, who had a slow start, but is starting to catch up on things at Chip Ganassi Racing. We'll talk about them in a minute. Bubba Wallace, who ended up finishing 13th despite his adventurous day, we'll call it, with everything from a speeding penalty to a flat tire, ended up getting another top 15. Huge momentum boost for that team. The other new team, Daniel Suarez at Trackhouse Racing, Ryan Newman in Ford, what has been a decent year for him. Ryan Preece, who is in an open car, they don't have the charter for that car, JTG Doherty, and Eric Jones, who is in the perennial 25th spot for Richard Petty Motorsports. Those are all the cars in front of what we thought was one of the premier Ford operations in NASCAR right now. As I turn over to my co-host, fellas, the panic siren at this point, they've probably tuned it out over there because it's probably going 24/7 nonstop at this point.
I would imagine so. They haven't really had a good season at all.
If that panic button hasn't been smashed into oblivion already, there's a problem at Stewart Haas because it should have been. The performance does not match up to what you'd historically expect, and I don't think that it's a driver issue. They got two young drivers over there, but Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers have not connected this year. They haven't hit anything, and is it practice and qualifying that's hurting them, or do they just really unload that bad and can't adjust it? I don't know, but they need to make a change, and they need to do it quick if they want to salvage any type of championship run this season. You can't have three cars sitting in the bottom half of the 20s.
I think it's either, are they even trying, or are they just preparing for next year?
Well, we know Harvick's trying. The other teams, look, Eric Almirola has been here long enough for us to understand that the sponsorship is keeping him in that seat. Almirola is okay. He is not a championship caliber driver. We know that about him. Briscoe and Custer are young drivers. They need time to get together. They need time to gel and get better. But I wasn't expecting this out of them. I mean, Custer, say what you will about his win last year, he made the playoffs. He's not going to sniff a playoff berth at this point. It is a huge problem for Stewart Haas Racing that their cars are this bad. And the Fords in general are starting to fall off as Chevy has finally found some speed. And that's before we even get to the point that Hendrick Motorsports has been dominant ever since we got to the summer. Stewart Haas is in trouble, and I don't think they can pull out of this tailspin in time.
I agree with you there. I think at this point they just need to hedge their bets on 2021. Do what you can this season, but you better, and Ford's watching too. And Ford, they've got money. And, I have to imagine that Ford is barking at them right now. And if they don't have a good 2022, I don't think it's going to be good for business for Stewart Haas.
It's like we were talking about a couple of shows ago, but I wonder with all the drama that's happening in F1, I wonder if that's trying to trickle down into the NASCAR team.
It feels like it because both teams are kind of emulating themselves at the moment with the poor performance.
Yeah.
But so what do you go ahead.
I was just going to say on the other side of things, I've been reading this week anyway that Trackhouse is looking for a second car next year. And I think they're pretty confident they're going to get one.
2311 is also looking to expand to two teams. Both of those teams are trying to quickly expand to two cars because we know two cars means more money, more data. You get more voices from the drivers on how to make the cars better. So I understand that from those teams, but the problem is the only way they can really do it and get the money is with charters. Because the amount of money that a non-chartered car gets compared to a charter is ludicrous. And that's even before we get to the fact that the non-chartered car isn't guaranteed into every race. Not that it really matters. They haven't had 40 cars for a race that's not been the Daytona 500 in God knows how long. The charter system doesn't, and I'm just going to put it out there, the charter system doesn't work. And I think we would all like to, it would be better if it went away. There's got to be a better way to get a return on investment for owners than this stupid system that doesn't allow teams to come into the sport easier. You've got Junior Motorsports that wants to come in. They need a charter if they want to do it. Colic is looking for at least one charter because they may come in with 2 cars next year. It's ridiculous. And you got teams, unfortunately, I have to go here, like Spire and Rick Ware Racing sitting on charters and being 18 seconds off the gosh darn pace. While you've got all these teams that want to come in and actually do some racing, can't get in. It's ridiculous.
I know that you stood up for me last week, Daryl, and I appreciate that, about kicking people off the track if they're X amount of laps down. And I've kind of been a proponent of if your average finish, or like what they should do is take all your finishes, and if you don't average finishing on the lead lap over the course of the full season, your charter, you should go into a probation. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get, the next year, if you average finishing 6 laps down, okay, you're done. Bye. Because there are competitive teams that want to be here, who want to compete for the sake of competing, not for the sake of a paycheck. Rick Ware is not here to race. He's here to make money. And, you could say that about all teams, but at least the other teams put in an effort.
Yeah. I mean, all the teams are trying to make money. Some teams are actually putting effort into trying to, win races while doing it. And it's frustrating. There's supposed to be a rule where if you finish 3 consecutive years outside, I believe it's the top 30 in points, that you're supposed to lose the charter. Well, the 52 is 33rd right now. The 15th is 32nd in points. Quinn Half is 31st in points. Go Fast as well is in that list of teams that should probably lose their charters. Something's got to give. And we're coming up to that 3-year mark. It's either this year, I hope it's this year, to be honest, or next year. If not, I don't know what's going to happen with these teams trying to come in. This was supposed to allow more teams to come in somehow, is how they sold it to us, which no one really believed it, and instead it hasn't. And there are some great teams that want to actually put competitive cars on the track that are suffering, and there's teams that at this point have no effort in even trying to run the same manufacturer's cars when it comes to Rick Ware Racing with their 2 Chevy 2 Ford debacle to even have a chance at running it. And by the way, the 51 and the 53 aren't even on the points as I'm looking here. I don't even think their drivers are taking points in the Cup Series. That's how bad it is with those cars. So something's got to give.
I mean, the only way for these new teams to come in is basically to buy an existing team or merge and basically throw money into it and say, hey, look, we're going to take control. We want to buy a controlling share of the team. And I would look at like Richard Petty, who, they need a buyout or money. And I would be looking, there's no way that Richard Petty goes to Toyota. Mm-hmm. I can't see it happening to the American public. But a Junior Motorsports or a colleague coming in and saying, hey, we want to take over management, basically take over. And with Richard Petty, you got to keep the name. I've said it before. I'll say it again. But I would look at Richard Petty as a door in for someone who's a Chevy manufacturer, like a colleague or a Junior Motorsports, or even that second Trackhouse car.
I could see it being the second Trackhouse car if they're going to stay Chevy. But it's frustrating. And I kind of got off on a tangent there, but I would love to see the 99 or Trackhouse or 2311 get the second car up and running. And apparently they're both looking at Kurt Busch to drive that car, whichever team gets him.
And it's
Yeah,
a race
I mean,
to Kurt Busch. Wow.
he's a well respected these days anyway. Veteran who is going to bring a lot of experience into your program, and with Daniel Suarez and Bubba, you're talking about two young guys who it's not going to hurt to have that veteran in there to give them pointers and give them new ways to think about things or mentor them. I think a guy like Kurt Busch is perfect for that developmental driver, or maybe not developmental, but that driver who could use that veteran presence at least.
And Bubba and Daniel could definitely use that presence to go to the next level. I think Suarez is, since we're on the topic, he is benefiting from a team that actually wants him there, if it makes sense. And he's starting to reward them. Yes, he's 22nd in points. It's a new team. But they've had a couple of top 10s. They had the surprise top 5 at Bristol Dirt. And then they've only had the 2 finishes really in the top 10, which is Bristol Dirt and Dover. But they have ran a lot better than some of these finishes. It's just they weren't able to capitalize. And unfortunately, sometimes that happens. Trials and tribulations of a first-year team. But I'm excited to see how these teams develop. And whoever gets Kurt Busch, I wouldn't be saying this 5 years ago. Definitely not 10 years ago. You're getting a great veteran presence and a real mentor out of him. And I don't think I'd be saying that 10 years ago. And I know I bring it up every time we talk about Kurt Busch, but it's not to put him down. It's not to remind everybody that Kurt Busch used to be a bad person. It's just to point out that people can change. And Kurt Busch had 2 feet out the door waiting for the push. And has turned himself into such an ambassador for the sport. And it's so great to see. I can't help but remark about it anytime I hear him speak. Because you see some of the situations he gets into. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, 5 years ago, he doesn't react like that.
No, 5 years ago, it's a different. I'd say it's a different Kurt Busch, really. With age and experience comes that calmness and the ability to think through your actions before you do them, think through your words before you say them. And, Bubba and Daniel have both been involved in scuffles off the track, and not saying that that's a pattern that's persistent or it's a character issue by any means. But, Kurt obviously had quite a temper and he's worked his way out of it. I don't think he's really getting angry anymore unless it's at his brother. And, something like that where, Bubba and Daniel have both been involved in something off the track, and just that veteran presence afterwards to say, hey, look, man, it's okay when it needs to happen, but, you need to pick and choose your moments. And something even as small as that veteran presence after those altercations can make a huge difference in the development of the driver. And again, not saying that either one has character issues or anything like that, but it's just, that veteran presence can make itself known and pay off in many different ways, not just how good you turn left.
It's funny how you mentioned that Suarez and Bubba have had run-ins on the track. They've had run-ins on the track with the same guy, which is weird. Both of them have had issues with Michael McDowell for some reason. If you remember a couple of years ago, like Phoenix qualifying, back when it was group qualifying, Suarez walked over there to talk to McDowell, and McDowell immediately throws hands. Then we had the issue at the All-Star race where McDowell turned Bubba, which turned into a whole thing. And then here at Sonoma, McDowell runs Suarez, off the track towards Los Angeles. And on the last lap, Suarez turns around McDowell, which is, you're going to get paid back when you make a move like that. But it's funny. These guys have had run-ins with drivers a driver on the track. It's been the same guy in the span of like 2 years. Like, that's really weird.
And obviously we're not in the garage, so we can't substantiate rumors, but I've heard that that's kind of in line with character for Michael McDowell. I've heard that he's not necessarily the most calm and collective guy in the garage. And again, I'm not trying to start anything, but I'm just, history shows that he's had run-ins with people on and off the track, and that's what the general consensus is around the garage. Whenever you hear about stuff like this, they always say, well, McDowell's a hothead, or McDowell, this is just par for the course with him. And it is interesting that both Bubba and Daniel have been involved with him.
Yeah, and it doesn't say anything good that, McDowell's been in run-ins with both of the few minority drivers that are on the racetrack, which kind of brings me to another point, but we'll get to that point at the end. We'll start with the good part first before I have to get on my soapbox. Hendrick Motorsports, it got hot outside and they started dominating. After their 1, 2, 3, 4 finish at Dover, they only, replaced that with nearly going 1 through 4 a second time at Charlotte. Chase ends up winning at Circuit of the Americas. And now Kyle Larson goes back to back, winning at Charlotte and beating the road course ace himself, Chase Elliott, at Sonoma. Now, we've talked a lot about the Hendrick domination. And, of course, the people talking about NASCAR cheating for Hendrick have come back again, a tale as old as time. It really feels like the championship 4 could be locked out by Hendrick, with Chase Elliott doing as well as he is. Larson apparently going away and running sprint cars for a year as a hyperbolic time chamber sequence, because he has come back and has been absolutely electric. And Byron and Bowman are starting to develop and define race car drivers as well. It is extremely possible you could see a Hendrick lockout of the Final 4 when we get to Phoenix.
That'll be interesting.
As a Hendrick fan, that would be fun. That would be so fun. But on the flip side, I almost don't want that, because, Twitter, the cesspool of society, could not handle that. It would be everything's a Mickey Mouse championship these days. And so much that I've blocked the term Mickey Mouse on Twitter, just because it's so overused and tired. But, Hendrick has come, seemingly out of nowhere and has just been stringing together this performance. And something that I had texted you guys, and, it's worth noting, is how sustainable is Larson's performance right now? Is he coming back, this chip on his shoulder, how long until that chip's gone or, has started to fade? If this is truly how Larson would be when he is in top flight equipment, you're looking at, the performance that we're seeing, one of the greatest of all time, based on the short sample that we've seen in top flight equipment. But I don't know if this is sustainable. I think we got a season of it, but in the next season or two, does he become complacent and start, kind of coming into, more top 10s, not top 3s? That's kind of the question that I've got for you guys is, is this sustainable, or do you think that, he falls back into less godlike performances?
I have no idea. I know when Jimmy Johnson got on this run, he became a 7-time champion. So we know it can be sustainable. It's hard to say because we're going to have a complete car change in 2022. So how long does it take for Larson to get up to speed with that? I think he can ride it out to the end of this year at least. The way he's going, I won't say he even had a slow start to the year, really, outside of the 500 in the road course. I think I think he can keep it rolling for the end of this year. I think he's a championship threat. After this year, it's going to depend on how he gels with the new car.
Yeah.
Michael, you've been quiet for. I was going to say, Michael, you've been quiet for a little bit. What do you think about it? Do you think he can keep it going?
Maybe to the end of this year, like you said, but there's a whole new car coming next year, so I think anybody's thing is up in the air when it comes to next year. So, I just feel like he's gonna focus on this year, and I think next year for a lot of teams it's gonna be a big learning experience. So I just kind of see him going for it this year. Maybe that's what he's doing, just trying to go for it.
I got one more question for you guys in regards to all this.
Uh-huh.
So, as my wife and I were watching, we were talking, and she's, says, "Oh, Chase Elliott is supposed to be the best road course racer. Why is Larson outperforming him?" And so this is my theory, and I'm just curious if you guys think that I'm kind of on track here, if you think I'm off base. But for the past couple of years, Chase Elliott, as we all know, has been dominating road courses, and it's because he's getting so far into the turns. He's basically dive bombing at 100% success rate. He's not pulling Lewis Hamilton dive bombing and overshooting and see you tomorrow. He's doing it successfully. So with Larson, is this an issue where Chase Elliott was almost just fearless behind the car and knew what he could get out of it and pushed it to the absolute limits to where he was so dominant because no one else would push the car as hard as he was? So basically, Kyle Larson is just as fearless as Chase Elliott when it comes to knowing his car and not being afraid to just push it to the absolute limit. Is this an issue where we might be looking at Kyle Larson, almost being better than Chase Elliott on road courses? Or do you think it's just part of this super run that he's putting together and time will even out where Chase Elliott kind of takes back as the road course ringer?
I think it's just this epic run that Larson is on. He's just white hot wherever we go. I think it'll eventually regress back towards the mean where Chase Elliott is coming out on top. But you're exactly right. There are a few drivers that are willing to go as deep onto the brakes here in these road courses than Chase Elliott. And Kyle Larson did it, and that got him a win. I don't know if it's sustainable, though.
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance this season, but next year I don't know. It's kind of up there for anyone.
So we are going into a All-Star break this week, as we will have the All-Star race on Sunday. I'm not going to touch the other nonsense when it comes with Kyle Larson. Like, folks, he did not get canceled last year, and that's all we're going to say about that. We have the All-Star race on Sunday, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think this is the most non-jazzed I've been for an All-Star race in a while. Like, between the six-car format or six-stage format and it being in Texas, I'm not much of a fan of this.
I'm not even turning the TV on, to be honest. I won't watch it.
That bad?
I've read through it, and I mean, I understand it, but at the same time, it's so confusing. I feel bad for Jeff Gordon, Clint, and Mike because I explaining this to the fans, they're going to catch so much heat on Twitter because no one's going to really understand what's going on. And it's at Texas. So it's already a snooze fest of a race to begin with. And when you come up with this formatting, I think that this might be the worst gimmick that NASCAR has ever come up with.
Okay, so I'm going to try to read this. Stop me when you get confused.
Stop.
So we set the lineup. Didn't even get started. So we set the lineup by random draw. The first round will be 15 laps. They're going to have a inversion anywhere through the top 8 through the top 12 through the random draw.
Keep going. That was the first haul.
Okay, so second round. Okay, so rounds 1 through 4, so I don't have to say 15 laps all the time, are going to be 15 laps. The entire field gets inverted for the second round. Round 3, 15 laps, again with the 8th through 12th inversion, selected by random draw. Round 4 is just 15 laps, I think, with no inversion. Round 5 is now 30 laps, judged by the cumulative finish of the first 4 rounds.
My brain hurts.
Hold on. It gets worse. Do you want to know how they're going to break the ties in round 5?
How?
In order: most career All-Star wins, most career Cup Series points race wins, or 2021 Cup Series driver standings.
Yeah, exactly. Like how are the announcers supposed to even begin to inform you about this? It is so confusing and it is so complicated, and that's why I hope I never would ever call for a boycott of NASCAR, but I really urge people to not watch, to send NASCAR a message that this is terrible.
This feels like every bad format that they've ever done for the All-Star race thrown into one. Like, how hard is it just to do 2 rounds, invert the field through the first, second round, and then go ahead? They used to do that. I don't know why it got this convoluted.
It wasn't even necessary, Daryl, to do this. It is not necessary for this level of complication. They could have made it just a standard race, and everybody would have watched. There would have been complaints from the normals, but it would have been fine. Or even like one inversion or something. But you're talking about like 10 different stages or like sections, or I don't even know how you would say it. But it's just going to be too confusing, and that's why I'm not even going to bother to watch.
Yeah.
It sounds really confusing.
I might watch the Open. I'm probably going to watch the Open. I actually start a new job on Monday, which I'm excited about. So I don't know if I'm going to stay up for the entire All-Star race, but this is going to be ridiculous and not in a good way, I think.
It's going to be painful.
Yeah. So it's not going to be painful, thankfully, as we also have an IndyCar race this week. And that's going to be the Grand Prix of Detroit. We have 2 rounds for that race. It'll be the only race we pick for nearest the win as well. This is a race in a series that has been completely wide open this year. We thought that this was going to be Dixon's championship to lose, and it's been a lot closer than we thought. I really think we could see 2 surprise winners on the weekend, and I think the racing could be good. At Detroit, traditionally, it hasn't been a great track for passing, but with all of these, I guess, road course aces, we can call them, even though they don't have that many ovals in IndyCar anymore, it's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. And Detroit is a great street circuit.
I'd love to see a rookie pull out a win. Like a Jimmy, a McLaughlin, or a Grosjean. Somebody. I just like to see a rookie pull out a win.
I would like to see a rookie win it.
It's ironic.
The rookies we have, the rookies we have outside of Jimmy Johnson aren't really rookies.
Well, yeah.
If we want to be honest.
I was just about to say, like, it's ironic calling those guys rookies.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they're rookies, but will we be surprised if, like, a Roman Grosjean wins Saturday or Sunday?
I'd be a little surprised, but not as much as if, like, a Jimmy won.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Jimmy won, I'd jump out of my seat. But
mm-hmm.
So I would say a little less than Jimmy, but I'd still be surprised. And it'd be cool to see him win too.
Definitely.
Yep. We'll see what happens, but we will go ahead and hedge our bets here because it is time for us to pick for nearest to win before we get out of here. Christopher currently has the commanding lead in the points, 18-12 over myself. Michael is third in 10th. And I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've had the folks that actually host the show in the top 3 of the points. So we're doing something there. Michael's actually tied with our points keeper, Matt White, with 10 points. Collins is tied with Seth Eves with 9 points. Then Taryn on his lonesome with 7. Matthew Owens has 6. Pierre has 5. Couch has 3. Larry has 1. Fellas, who do you have for Detroit? And we're picking one driver for both races.
Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, not particularly, but I can. I guess. Daryl, why don't you go first? Give me a second.
I will go first, actually. So I kind of want to go Roman. My heart says Roman Grosjean, but my head says Alex Palou. And I think I want to stick with that. So I'm going to take Alex Palou, our current points leader. The kid's been running extremely well. I think he's going to pick up the win on Saturday and Sunday.
I'm going to go with Roman Grosjean.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I guess we all go a different way on this one because I'm going to pick Mr. Joseph Newgarden.
You know, it's a little bit more fun when we don't pick all the same drivers, too. So this is going to be a fun watch this weekend. I'll actually be at the beach on Saturday, so I won't get to see the first race. But the second race will be a lot of fun to watch. Cannot wait to see IndyCar back in action. But
hey,
it is
before
time
we
for
go
us to...
quick, Daryl.
Go ahead.
What are you guys' thoughts on the potential F1 COTA doubleheader? Have you guys read about that yet?
I've seen that. I'm not surprised with everything going on with COVID. I'm excited to see 2 at COTA. I actually like COTA a lot.
I think they're talking about 2 weekends in a row. So you're talking about, 8, 9, maybe 10 days of F1 in the U.S. I think that would be awesome for the fan base here in the U.S.
Be a great way to get everybody hyped up for having the 2 races next year with Miami and COTA on the schedule.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So with that said, it's time for us to say goodbye. Remember, Chris is at Fiji Sims. I'm at DK Jr. 12. Michael's at Michael_Wart25. Make sure you follow the Extra Mile page on Twitter. The Extra Mile. Let me make sure I get this right. At Extra Mile IESR. We're getting that page lit with some funny memes thanks to Chris and myself, as well as polls as well. So make sure you get involved with those. And one of the polls we asked this week are whether or not Mercedes should be hitting the panic button after this week. And 66% of you actually said no. Actually, the question was, are you concerned with Mercedes prospects to hold on to the world championships? 66% of you said no, which I was surprised about.
I voted
definitely
yes.
thought the yeses would have that.
I voted yes.
I also voted yes. So I was surprised to see that. So make sure you get involved with those tweets. Make sure your voices are heard here on the Extra Mile. Also, make sure you leave your comments here in the chat. We will read them on the air. Also, make sure you check out the iSports Radio social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and our website, iSportsRadio.com. And if you have missed any episode of any iSports Radio show, they can be heard wherever podcasts can be listened to. But we're out of here for tonight. This has been the Extra Mile. For Christopher and Michael, I'm Daryl. we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.